Let me tell you a story about a loan this evening. Little over 30-year-old Mangal Ram Meghwal was found hanging from the ceiling of his house yesterday. He'd borrowed about 4 lakh rupees from a bank. He'd already paid back half of it, was unable to pay the rest. The bank sent him a notice. The bank was going to auction off his land. Mangal Ram was unable to get an extension on his loan repayment and he hung himself out of desperation. The bank in question was Punjab National Bank. Let that sink in. Now let me tell you a story about another loan. A jewelry designer managed to borrow 12,700 crore rupees from that same bank over several years and managed to walk completely free. Not only did he walk free, he sent a letter back to the bank saying, because you went to the press and created such a stir, I don't think I'm ever going to pay you back or even settle with you. No sign there at all of any sort of distress. With no questions asked, Nirav Modi got an unbelievable 1,213 LOUs or letters of understanding for loans over 6 years from Punjab National Bank. Vijay Mallya borrowed 9,000 crore rupees and didn't pay it back. And bankers seem to have been so smitten by his flamboyance, they kept giving him more and more money as he raked it up to 9,000 crore rupees and then he just fled. Between Nirav Modi, Vijay Mallya and Vikram Kothari, they together owe Indian banks about 25,000 crore rupees. Banks in our country have recently reported willful defaults of over 1,11,738 crore rupees involving about 9,000 borrowers who have the ability to pay but are refusing to pay. The question we have to ask is very simply this. Are there different rules, a different set of rules for the rich and the poor in our banking systems? In the last financial year alone, banks have collected 5,000 crore rupees as penalties from customers who weren't able to maintain their average minimum balance. These are obviously poor people. Rich people maintain their average minimum balance. It's the poor who run out of money at the end of every month. But billionaire fugitives walk away and are now enjoying their vacations. Whose responsibility is it to right these wrongs? Is it the RBI? Is it the government? Is it the banks themselves? Why is it that banks are willing to bend over backwards for the rich and are refusing to hear the cries of the poor? Are the rules in fact different? That's the question we are asking today on the Urban Debate. Joining me, Yogendra Yadav, founder of the Swaraj Abhiyan, Vaibhav Agarwal with the BJP, Leher Sethi is the Secretary of the All India Council for Human Relations, Narinder Bhasin, former Vice President at Axis Bank, Harsh Rungta, Financial Advisor, Bejon Mishra, Consumer Activist, and Rajiv Mishra, RTI Activist. I welcome all of you to this conversation. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to start with Yogendra ji. Mr. Yadav, we hear stories of suicide after suicide from farmers, and the comparison of the fact that Punjab National Bank was hard enough on one farmer to drive him to suicide, but somehow, and I'm not saying the bank shouldn't do its job, but somehow is unwilling to apply the same principles when it comes to the rich. Are there two different sets of rules for the rich and the poor in our country, Mr. Yadav?
That goes without saying, Faye. All over the country this is happening. This particular story, this heart-wrenching story, happens to be just the tip of an iceberg. There's nothing special or unique about the story, and that's really tragic because this is what is happening everywhere. I can tell you, from Punjab and Haryana, I've heard tales of this kind. Routinely, farmers are served this notice for what in Hindi is called kurki. Will come and take away everything. So this is done. In Uttar Pradesh, last year I heard the story, and I can give you photographs and everything, that on the tehsil, so the main administrative building of that particular block, on the wall of it they had painted the names of farmers who owed some money. Someone owes 50,000 rupees, someone owes 70,000 rupees. Their names were written on the wall of Tehsil. This is district Muradabad and Chandosi area. of Uttar Pradesh. In Ghaziabad, this is something happened a few months ago. There was actually a munadi in the village, which is to say a drummer goes out and calls out aloud to the whole village, these people owe this much money to the banks. So what is happening here? This is clear name and shame. That's happening for people who owe 50,000, 70,000, 1 lakh. In the case of this farmer, the story I heard was that he owed a little less than 3 lakh rupees, of which he had paid 1.7 lakh already. And here is a condition in which the state government has already announced loan waiver, which is yet to take place after months and months. The administrative bureaucracy is taking place. So the whole idea where we think of the farmer as a client of the bank, I'm afraid that's just theory, that's fiction. In reality, the farmer is not a client. I mean, I speak to so many farmers. They say, oh, bank manager साहब के पास तो कभी जाने का मौका नहीं मिलता. They can't even go to the bank manager. Touts handle these things and they are treated like dirt. And on the other hand, you pointed out these stark cases of Vijay Mallya and others. But let me also remind you of the routine institutional cases. The government of India announces schemes called restructuring of loans, 525 scheme. What was that scheme? Down to basics, what it meant was that, all right, you don't want to pay your loans, okay, just tell us that you intend to do so after 5 years. Even after 5 years, you can postpone it. What is this haircut business that's happening, of which we hear reports? Basically, I owe 100 crore rupees of loan, I am unable to pay, it's taken over and sold off to someone finally for 10 crore rupees. Public takes hit of 90 crore rupees. That's routinely what is happening here. So for the rich, we have beautiful terminology. We have restructuring of loan, we have write-off, we have NPA, we have soft, we have hard, we have haircut, we have all these lovely English words. Why can't we invent these words for the farmers? So clearly, this is not just two standards. I think this is a clear colonial mentality. For a farmer of India still live as if he or she is a colonized subject. Right. And needless to say, Nirav Modis of the world, Vijay Mallyas of the world live in a different world.
Yes, in fact, because of what you said, Mangal Ram's wife Sarita spoke with the press, and this is what she said. She said he sought time from bank officials, but his request fell on deaf ears. So effectively, Mangal Ram on his 2 lakh rupee loan asked for a restructuring, which nobody was willing to give him. But we gave Vijay Mallya repeated restructures as well, because obviously our banking system is biased towards the rich and does not care for the ordinary citizen. Let me bring in Vaibhav Agarwal. Vaibhav Agarwal of the BJP. Do you want to respond to that? It does seem to be a stark bias, Vaibhav.
Faye, we've discussed this many a times during the protests that were taking. We saw that there were political angles to it. The concept that Yogenji, I totally agree with what Yogenji is saying. There are doubts that can be casted on almost all these schemes that are there. There could be doubts that can be casted on this government schemes. There could be questions that can be raised on the past 60 years. My basic question is very simple. That when you allow a habit to be cultivated for a larger section of the wrongful doers for not returning the loans that they raise for farming, then obviously the smaller ones who are the genuine guys will obviously get beaten up. I mean, look at it from a different perspective altogether. Every government, it becomes a political issue. Every government wants to come in and do farm loan waivers. But farm loan waivers, nobody has talked about farmer welfare. Nobody has talked about MSP. Nobody has talked about bazaar se, beej se bazaar tak. Nobody has talked about insurance.
You talked about building a bad habit among people who borrow and don't pay back, and how that's really bad for the system. Let me point out to you, there are 9,000 willful defaulters in our country, names of which are available in the system, who owe a total of over 1 lakh crore rupees. 1 lakh crore rupees. Those are willful defaulters who have developed a bad habit, Mr. Vaibhav Agarwal, not our farmers. But nobody seems to be looking at these people. Is that because they're rich, they're powerful, they have powerful friends? What is it?
Can I give you some data just to make
sure
please,
that I love it.
Go wrong on the debate? Faye very simply said, 2.5 lakh companies in the history of Indian corporate world has been written off from the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Nobody talked about that. You didn't want to talk about the
Vaibhav, we seem to have lost your audio. We're going to try and get that back. Vaibhav, can you hear me now? Go ahead, please.
Faye, in the meanwhile, can I ask something?
Yes, Mr. Yadav, go ahead.
Since Vaibhav is on data, can I ask him one simple thing? As of now, the government has informed the parliament that the total NPAs of the scheduled banks are around 9.6 lakh crore rupees. Please tell me, Mr. Vaibhav, and this question is not directed at your party or your government only. I don't know why you convert everything into us versus 60 years and so on. We are talking about Indian banking system, and we are speaking about the colonial mentality. Out of that 9.6 lakh crore rupees of NPA, tell me what percentage is owned by farmers? What percentage of NPA is due to these irresponsible farmers? Do you have any idea? I can provide you the statistics.
Right, we're still trying to get Vaibhav's Skype up and running. We seem to have a problem with that. But I'm going to get opening statements from the rest.
In which case, let me also give the answer.
Yes.
It is a little less than 6%. 94% of the NPAs are due to business and industry. We don't talk about it. And this 6%, of which also some significant percentage would be people who actually don't practice agriculture. So the genuine real farmers are not even 2 to 3% of the NPAs of this country. And those are the ones who are being targeted. Isn't it odd? Isn't it unfair? Isn't it colonial? What else is it?
Absolutely. Opening statements from all of our panelists. Mr. Harsh Rungta is a financial advisor. Mr. Rungta, even for people who live in the cities, if they miss one EMI on their home loans, the manner in which they get treated by the banks, threatening phone calls, rude phone calls, almost, threats of I will come to your house, we have your address, we know where you live. This sort of, if we want to accept that this is how the bank recovers its money, why are the rich allowed to walk away free, Mr. Rungta?
I think in line with what happens in other walks of life in India, in the banking system as well, there very clearly is a different set of rules for the rich, and there is a different set of rules for the poor people. There is an old joke which says that if you owe in lakhs to the bank, it's your problem. When you owe in crores, it's the bank's problem. And I think that's proved in big measure here already. It isn't that the rules are different. I think the manner in which they are applied is different, and clearly the judiciary has a role to play as well. I am not letting off the banks from the hook, but the rich people can afford to hire fancy lawyers who can find out issues with the whatever steps the bank might anyway take or delayed taking, and then the lawyers can take over. So I think there is this conspiracy around protecting large borrowers, which clearly is not there with a small borrower. A small borrower cannot afford.
Harshunda, let's be honest. Why are large borrowers being protected? Lawyers? Because they're either powerful or they have powerful friends, or they're willing to bribe everybody.
I think it's a bit of everything. It's when a large NPA account will hit the bank, it will affect the bottom line. So they are protected. The other factors that you have mentioned, I suspect it's a bit of everything. I don't think there is one single factor that leads to corseting of the rich borrowers and the hounding of the poor borrowers. I think it's a combination.
Mr. Bijon Mishra, go ahead, please.
Faye, in my view, we are very good in preaching. We don't want to practice. There are global best practices in the banking system around the world, which ensures that a person who has defaulted, the person is counseled, helped, handheld, and allowed to bring in a proper system which enables him to pay back in a manner which is comfortable to the payee. So the point is, we in our country never want to be sensitive towards the poor, nor we want to make the system accountable and transparent. Why these big borrowers have run away, why they have not been taken to task, because the whole system is opaque. The system is non-accountable. People know they can get away. The law is cumbersome. The law is long drawn. The law is not modernized in terms of today's context. And poor people who do not have resources, who cannot hire lawyers, who cannot
Yes.
engage in a kind of
Yes.
a constructive intellectual intervention before the legal
yes.
bodies, they are made victims, and then they, poor chaps, commit suicide because they don't have any counseling. They don't have any counseling given by the bankers. The bankers refuse to meet them. The bankers, in fact, they threaten them, and that is what is the consequence. You see, all over the world I have seen, the bankers are made responsible to counsel these kind of victims who are unable to pay. And it is not that we bring in habit of not paying, we bring in good habits where people will pay willingly because they know that the banks have helped them in the time of crisis
Right,
and
all
helped
right.
them to come out
I
of the
do know that
crisis
Yogendra
rather
Yadav
than
has to
pushing
leave in a
them
minute, so
further
I'm going
into
to-
the crisis.
I'm going to give Mr. Yadav an opportunity to respond to Bejon Mishra. Is it counseling from the banks, Mr. Yadav, or is it the RBI, the finance ministry? Where does the change need to come in? Because this is not okay. We can't allow Nirav Modi to walk away while the bank crushes a farmer for 2 lakh rupees.
Absolutely. I mean, what he has said about counseling, etc., these are very nice things, but this is light years away from where we are right now. I mean, I want them to be treated as human beings to begin with. Let me just throw in a few things in this debate which you can pick up. Reserve Bank guidelines say that below 1 lakh loan, you cannot ask farmers for any property to be provided, but it is routinely asked for. The guidelines again say that you would take only as much property as is the loan. So I take 2 lakh rupees of loan, I have 10 acres of land, and my 1 acre of land actually is worth 45 lakh rupees. But then my 10 acres of land is taken as assurance and is attached, which is again illegal. I am without my knowledge and information as a farmer. The money for insurance is deducted. I don't even know about it. I don't get a scrap of paper to say that I've got it. I get money from the government because I've sold my crop. And before I know, without any permission from me, a certain amount is adjusted against my loan. All these things are plainly illegal. RBI guidelines clearly say that at the time of drought, farmers' loans should be restructured. But none of the state banking committees met and did that. We presented the data to the Supreme Court. It's all there in black and white. The trouble is that this entire system is so loaded against the farmers. So it's not that the rules are wrong, but the power equation locally and lack of political will, lack of administrative capacity, lack of power on behalf of the farmers is what leads to the consequences that we are looking at.
All right, Mr. Yadav, I know you have to leave and I thank you for your time. I'm going to bring in the rest of my panelists, and our phone lines are now open for our viewers who want to weigh in on how banks treat us and banks treat the rich. Is that the same, and what is the problem? Narendra Bhasin, former Vice President at Axis Bank. Is it true, Narendra Bhasin, that any bank right now would shake down a regular borrower, someone who's taken a home loan or an auto loan, but will allow the rich to walk free?
No, I will not. In all the discussion which has so far happened, the rules and regulation for rich and poor is same. RBI and the bank industry is the most regulated industry. Only thing we need to understand the concept. Corporate banking and the rural banking is totally different parameter. That is the major issue that Major Mishra already said, that counseling and awareness, restructuring, it has been done. It has been done where the rescheduling has been done. We have to see the natural calamities has to be there. We are comparing something with a willful defaulter. I think that is an incorrect comparison at all.
Why so?
Because all the rules are there, restructuring we have done. We have a crop insurance, term loan, where if the loan is not paid for 1 year, RBI circular is very clear, where it has a rescheduling. You take the example of Uttaranchal, where 1.5 year public sector banks have delayed, the moratorium period is there. So, comparing of farmers, yes, this is unfortunate, the suicide is happening, but the rural banking and rural infrastructure is totally different game. That's
So okay,
all
so
the
tell me
statement.
this. Tell
Everybody
me
has
this.
to
If
be
you're
part of
saying that the
government
rules
or
are the same
banker.
for everyone,
Yeah.
Narendra Bhasin, if you're saying the rules are same for everyone, so when a city-dwelling salaried person misses one EMI, the treatment that person receives from any bank, is that the same as the first EMI that Vijay Mallya missed? Did he also receive that treatment? Did someone call him with a really rude tone and said, I know where you live?
Procedure is same.
Never,
Like we
never.
are saying that
Never,
we are
never.
putting the names of the farmer. Even city also, if somebody is NPA and after the 90 days or 180 days, the notice is put at the, even in Delhi also, wherever is happening. Rules are same, but only thing that we have to understand, counseling is there, people are not there, crop insurance, everything is there. But these people are, so
Rajiv
somebody
Mishra.
has to visit them, stay with them and try to find the root cause. We are
The
not touching
root
the
cause.
ground realities on that.
The-
Whether Vijay
Rajiv
Mallya
Mishra.
or Meerawati, they
No.
follow-ups are there.
I think the
And
root cause is
follow
fairly-
the
is fairly
definition
obvious.
that has
भसीन
to
साहब जो
be-
कह रहे हैं कि
Yeah, I
रिच
don't
और
agree, the
पुअर
rules
के
are
लिए
same
सेम
for
कानून है, मैं इनको अभी छोटा सा उदाहरण जो योगेंद्र यादव जी ने दिया उसी से मैं समझा देना चाहता हूं। अभी फार्मर्स का अगर लोन उसने पे नहीं किया है तो उसके नाम आप जाकर करके उसके बाउंड्री वाल पे उसके घर के आगे आप लिख रहे हैं कि ये इतने रुपए का कर्जदार है।
तो same
आपसे
thing in
सुप्रीम
metro
कोर्ट,
also, if
आपसे
somebody is
सुप्रीम,
not
एक मिनट
paying,
भसीन
we
साहब,
can
एक
do in
मिनट
Delhi also.
भसीन साहब, एक
Even in
मिनट,
metros
आपसे
also same
सुप्रीम
thing, the
कोर्ट,
notice will be put.
भसीन साहब आप सुन तो लो, अभी आप फार्मर्स का नाम उसके वाल पे उसके घर के आगे जाके चिपका रहे कि इतने रुपए का कर्जदार है। आपसे सुप्रीम कोर्ट कह रहा है कि आपको क्या इतराज है, बड़े लोग
मेट्रो ऑल्सो somebody is not paying, the notice has to, this is a part of the RBI regulation.
आप सुन तो लो सर, आप सुन तो लो,
One second. Let him finish making his point, Mr. Bhasin.
Yeah.
Let him
आप
finish
सुन
making
तो
his
लो,
point.
आपसे सुप्रीम कोर्ट कह रहा है कि आपको क्या इतराज है कि आप बड़े जो बोरोवर्स हैं आप उनका नाम हमारे सामने प्रोड्यूस कर दीजिए या पब्लिक कर दीजिए, आपको क्या इतराज है? तो आप बता रहे हो कि इससे पूरा अर्थव्यवस्था भारत का डगमगा जाएगा, सारे इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट का विश्वास टूट जाएगा, लोगों को विश्वास कायम रखने के लिए ये जरूरी है, ये आप कह रहे हो। और फार्मर्स को बेइज्जत करने के लिए उसके घर के आगे नाम चिपकाने में आपको कोई शर्म नहीं लग रही? एक फार्मर जो आपका लाख रुपया लेके बैठा है या लाख रुपया नहीं भर पा रहा है, आप उसके आगे तो उसकी बेइज्जती कर रहे हो पूरे गांव में।
पार्ट ऑफ द RBI रेगुलेशन।
अरे व्हाट इज रेगुलेशन? यही तो बोला जा रहा है कि ये रेगुलेशन जो है, देखो
इवन इन द मेट्रो आल्सो।
भसीन साहब, चर्चा पूरी इसी बात पे है कि रेगुलेशन जो है पुअर के लिए अलग है और अमीर के लिए अलग है, चर्चा पूरी इसी बात पे है, यही तो हम कह रहे हैं।
No, that is the wrong, that so I am also saying regulation are same, but only the implementation is a problem because corporate banking, metro banking, rural banking is different.
हाँ,
We
क्योंकि
need to
रूरल
understand
बैंकिंग में
that all everybody has to
कस्टमर
participate.
ब्राइब
Neither-
नहीं दे
not
पाता है,
only-
इसलिए लहर सेठी हैज नॉट स्पोकन येट. लहर सेठी, थैंक यू फॉर
No,
लिसनिंग सो
that is not a
पेशेंटली.
question. Bribe is not a question. That we have to see how we have to approach them. Otherwise, these debates will continue. We'll come on the show, we'll debate, and then finally no results are coming.
See, but you know,
We have need to go and
it's very
spend with
interesting.
the
You know,
people
it's
that
very
what is
interesting.
the
One
ground
second,
reality,
Mr. Bhasin.
you know?
I think here we found the problem. It's very interesting
Yeah.
that you believe the bank needs to change the way you are dealing with the farmers. The bank needs to change the way you're dealing with the looters, with the rich. That is the problem. There is the problem. You don't even want to
That's
see
why-
that
that's why I
there's
agree
a
with
problem
Mr.
there.
Bajon Mishra. He
If you
said
hadn't let that much money leave the
counseling
country,
and the
perhaps you wouldn't be
literacy.
treating farmers so badly out of such desperation of NPAs. Now, are you seriously
will
wanting to
come
tell
back.
me
They-
that
RBI
by taking
government is
2
not-
lakh
RBI is
rupees,
not
one
leaving.
second,
They
Mr.
have to
Bhasin, you
come
seem
back
to have a problem
and they
listening.
have the recovery, you know.
You know, are you telling me that by recovering 2
They
lakh
will come
rupees
back.
from
Their
Mangal Ram
recovery-
Meghwal, all of the NPA problems of the banks would have miraculously gone away? Why are they being so tough on him? They're being tough on him
You are
because
not
they're
showing
embarrassed,
those
because
are
they've
the
lost too much money
restructuring.
to
We
begin
should-
with.
please-
One second.
Please tell the data of that also, na. Many banks we have rescheduling has been done, but we are not publishing data. We are taking only one news and we are just debating on that. We have to see the ground realities that whether the banking industry is always public sector bank. If it is not there in India for the last 75
भसीन
years.
साहब,
so
ग्राउंड
this growth
रियलिटी
has
ये
never
है कि
come,
जिनकी
you know.
एसेट्स 2 करोड़ की नहीं है उसको आप लोगों ने 50-50 करोड़ रुपया लोन दिया है। ग्राउंड
One
रियलिटी
second,
ये
one
है।
second. Leher Sethi will speak now. Leher Sethi, please go ahead.
I will not.
Yeah. Okay, what Mr. Bhasin, what you're saying might be true. I agree that the regulations are the same for everyone. However, we need to understand that most of these farmers that are being dealt with are not educated people. Are their rights being told to them? Is the loan and the fundamentals attached to the loan, are they being properly communicated to the farmers? Do they even know what they're getting into when they're taking a loan? I think that is highly questionable. I do not think that that is happening the way that it should.
Literacy has to be there. All the issues which are there, financial literacy, that
No,
we have not
I
taken
do
step
not.
how to advise them.
We don't have that kind of time.
That
We don't have that kind of time for financial
Mr.
literacy.
Bhasin,
I saw Hashrungta's
see,
hand
Mr.
go up. One
Bhasin,
second.
let me just finish.
Hashrungta.
That is-
Yes, sorry.
that-
Go ahead. Leher, go ahead. I apologize.
Yeah, I was just saying that that's one of the reasons, right? Secondly, the government also needs to come in and make some sort of regulations, ease out some of these problems that they're facing, you know. When the government came out with demonetization, for example, I think the people who were worst hit were the laborers and the farmers. And I feel that a lot of this that is happening today has to do with the demonetization. It has its seeds sown then, you know. There were so many, clashes that happened between the police officials and the farmers. They took to the streets. No, this is a fact. No, what do you
one
mean?
thing I want to say that it's
is
not
there
a
something
single,
wrong in what I'm
everybody,
saying?
all the stakeholder has to come,
this
whether
is
a
not the
banker,
fact.
government, citizen, everybody has to work together for this problem. No government can solve this problem, we all stakeholder has to combine. Then only we can move to the rural and see the understand and how this gap can be plugged, in my view.
So, but you have the power to help them. No, but but the government and the banks do have the power to help them. I, as an ordinary citizen, can only pay my taxes and hope that it
even
gets
as a
to
citizen,
somebody.
we have
If
the power
it
to help
goes as
them.
a subsidy
Even
to a
as
farmer,
citizen,
I'd
we
be
have the power to
happier.
help them.
Yeah, I just want to point out if we're saying that
How?
financial literacy is the problem here. Hashrungta, I see your hand go up, and I'm going to come to you with this question. If financial literacy is the problem, Hashrungta, explain to us when banks collect 5,000.
Financial literacy cannot
One second,
be a
one second. Let me
convenient-
finish the question. If banks have collected 5,000 crore rupees in the last 1 year from those who are unable to maintain the minimum balance in their bank accounts, what does that mean? Are these rich people who are unable to maintain the minimum balance in their bank accounts? Who are these people? On which there will be a fee charged without permission and then GST charged on the fee for not maintaining, for not having enough money. You're being fined for not having enough money. Hashrungta, who are these people and is this fair? Isn't this another example of treating the rich and the poor differently?
I think every argument can have both sides, but I think one thing we need to nail, I think financial literacy cannot become a convenient scapegoat for not doing what I think the banking system is supposed to do. I think there is complete lack of accountability as far as the banks go. I mean, we've seen that with
This is what I am also saying.
retail consumers, we've seen that with depositors, we have seen that with borrowers, we're seeing that with farmers for a long time. I mean, look at the things that Mr. Yadav has just pointed. I was not aware of that, but very, very clearly, if the banks are taking security more than what they are authorized to do, shouldn't the CEO of such a bank be fined? Shouldn't somebody be losing their jobs? This is illegal. What is the regulator doing? Is it sleeping? So very clearly you are absolutely right that the rules, although they may exist, so whenever there is a problem, very conveniently the rules are pointed. See, we have these rules to protect the farmers, but those rules are not being implemented, and when those rules are being violated, there is absolutely no action being taken on the banks. So very clearly, till we see banks being penalized for
Hashrungta,
not following rules,
is that the
I
RBI's
think-
responsibility or is that the finance ministry's responsibility to penalize banks?
I think the initial
RBI
responsibility
responsibility.
clearly
Already
is of the
penalized has
Reserve
been.
Bank. Very, very clearly it is the regulator.
Under the Banking
and
Regulation
I
Act,
don't
and
think
already penalties has been
RBI
imposed
should
on
allow
KYC
the
and
government.
Yes. And that's a responsibility. Yes.
Yeah, so I mean the penalties need to make sense.
It has
I
to
mean,
pinch.
if a penalty of 500 rupees is levied on somebody who earns 5 crore rupees a day, how is that going to make any difference to the person?
Raji Mishra.
फाइनेंशियल काउंसलिंग की बात हो रही है. अभी आपको मैं बता दूं, हम लोग चूंकि फार्मर की बात कर रहे हैं तो हम लोग को ये लगता है कि वो फाइनेंशियल एजुकेटेड नहीं है, इसलिए उन लोगों के ऊपर इस तरह की बातें आ रही हैं. आप शहर के मिडिल क्लास और लोअर मिडिल क्लास इनकम के जो लोग हैं उनकी बात कर लो ना. दे आर एजुकेटेड और उन लोगों ने सब कुछ समझ करके लोन लिया है, लेकिन उसके बावजूद जब वो ईएमआई किसी कारणवश, या तो उनकी जॉब चली जाती है, आज जॉब सिक्योरिटी नहीं है, ज्यादातर लोग प्राइवेट सेक्टर में काम कर रहे हैं, जॉब सिक्योरिटी नहीं है, अगर उनकी जॉब चली गई 2-3 महीना वो जॉबलेस रह गए, वो ईएमआई नहीं भर पा रहे हैं, तो उनके साथ आप क्या ट्रीट कर रहे हो? आप उनके साथ भी वही ट्रीटमेंट दे रहे हो जो गरीब फार्मर्स के साथ दे रहे हो. फिर इसमें आप कैसे कह सकते हो कि आप गरीबों के बीच में और अमीरों के बीच में आप बाइफर्केशन नहीं करके रहो? आपके यहाँ 2-2 करोड़ के एसेट वाले लोग 100-100 करोड़ का लोन उठा करके बैठे हैं, उसमें कई बैंक के अधिकारी जेल के अंदर भी गए हैं. ये कैसे हुआ? ये तो कहीं ना कहीं आप एक सिस्टम अपने अंदर बैंकिंग के अंदर पाल रखे हो, जिसमें बड़े लोगों को आपको कैसे सपोर्ट करना है और गरीबों को कैसे आपको हरास करना है. मतलब बड़ों को लूटने की छूट दे रखी है और गरीबों का खून चूसने का प्लान बना रखा है. ये कौन सा सिस्टम चल रहा है बैंकिंग का?
Can I come?
Yes, Mr. Bejon Mishra, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Faye, let me tell you, as I told you in my opening remark,
Yes.
there is a complete lack of accountability with the bankers. You see, the bank managers should be made responsible. They should lose their job. They should be suspended. Strict action should be taken when they violate the norms of RBI. The buck stops at the finance minister. The buck stops at the finance secretary. The finance secretary of Government of India and the finance minister, that is where the buck stops. They have to take strong action against such kind of calamities which are happening in our country. You know, I refuse to understand that this is a simple, easy to solve a solution. It is not so complicated. It is not a rocket science. The point is, we are insensitive. We are completely insensitive towards our customers.
Let Vaibhav
We are
Agarwal
completely
respond to this.
insensitive towards our population.
Vaibhav Agarwal, go ahead, please.
Yeah.
It's true that there is a lack of accountability among the banking sector, and that buck stops at the RBI's door. Vaibhav.
So having said that, I think all the panelists have made very relevant points, but everyone has to understand that India's farmers' debt of 10 lakh crores this fiscal year, the last fiscal year, when we collected the data on it, it's roughly about 10 lakh crores. Let's appreciate the fact that this has not come in one day, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. It's got a historical antecedent to it. The historical antecedent has to be improved when a new government comes in the center. The basics have to be uprooted and the basics have to be reinstated in the correct format. So, for example, before this government, and I'm not trying to talk very high of our government.
But Vaibhav, response to what we're talking about, which is accountability from the RBI. We're not talking about governments. There needs to be a tightening of the screws in the RBI, Vaibhav.
Let me at least draw up an inference to what I'm trying to say. I am not trying to, and you know I'm apolitical when it comes to calling a spade a spade. So let us look at it. When there was farmer, and I totally buy Mr. Bhasin's point, when there is financial illiteracy, it is banks' accountability and responsibility, the loan officer's responsibility. It is mandated not just by the RBI, but as per the code of conduct of banking in the Banking Act.
But it's not happening.
It has to be briefed and the terms and conditions have to be briefed. But since the farmer is half of the times illiterate, ill-informed, needy of the money, small cash makes a lot of difference to the poor farmer. Nobody wants to understand that, and he becomes an easy target.
No.
I think वैभव जी का complete आकलन wrong है, complete wrong है. मैं आपको बता.
One minute, guys. Look, I was very patient in listening to everyone. Allow me to state something that I'm trying to say.
But Vaibhav ji, we're not arguing about whether or not the farmer understands the system. We're arguing about how people like Nirav Modi and Vijay Mallya are allowed to understand the system so well that they manage to game it. And that is why we have NPAs. because people are walking away with our money. So if the banking sector feels the need to be so hard
Not
on
only
a
that,
farmer who owed them
not
2
only
lakh
that,
rupees,
Faye,
working
why
for them.
isn't that uniform across the board? That's the simple question we're asking. The same rule needs to apply for everyone.
Faye,
Sure, I totally agree to you. But I would like to,
Wait.
in June 2017, last year, Times of India had reported multiple interviews of multiple CEOs and bank CEOs, including Arundhati Roy, the then SBI chairman, who actually, and I quote from the excerpt, said that when I expect someone to write a check of rupees 1 lakh to take over my loan, I'm going to stop repaying it. That's one of the bank statement. One of the bank CEOs said that farmers are emptying their bank accounts so that we cannot deduct the payment due from them. That's another large bank told the TOI, and I'm quoting from the news that Times of India reported. And Miss Arundhati Roy, the then SBI chairman, also came out and said
Arundhati
that when I know
Bhattacharya.
that and Arundhati Bhattacharya, correct. When I know that the farmer knows that when I know that somebody is, giving me the money for it, why should I pay for
okay,
it? So
Vaibhav, no,
setting
yeah,
a wrong
no,
precedent.
Vaibhav,
So,
listen.
this
We're talking
goes
about
hand in
loans of the
hand.
quantum
Faye,
of 2 lakh
Faye,
or
I
3
think
lakh
we are
rupees.
swaying.
You're refusing to address the
Faye,
problem
No,
of the
you're-
fact that the
you're
banking
trying to
sector is bleeding money to the
We are
rich
trying
at
to
this
strike
point.
a balance.
Faye.
Now comes the government's role.
Faye.
Now comes the government's role.
No,
The
no,
government is
I've given
taking
you
a
far too much
two-pronged
time and you
approach
have not got to the point, Vaibhav. I'm sorry.
Give me another
No,
10 seconds.
no, one second. I'll come back to you. Rajiv Mishra.
फिर वैभव, हमको लगता है कि वैभव इस टॉक शो में जानबूझ करके बात को दूसरी ओर ले जा रहे हैं. मैं आपको बोल रहा हूं, जो लोग फाइनेंशियली काउंसलिंग
Yes,
में
I
बेस्ट
agree.
नॉलेज रखते हैं, वही लोग तो बैंक को चूना लगा के गए. वही लोगों ने तो बैंकों के साथ बड़ा फ्रॉड किया है. 1 लाख 2 लाख 3 लाख लेने वाला आदमी विलफुल डिफॉल्टर नहीं है. विलफुल डिफॉल्टर अगर कोई है तो वो लोग हैं जो बैंकिंग को स्पेशलाइजेशन है, जिनका बैंकिंग में, जिनको खूब समझ में आता है, जिनके पास 2-2 4-4 सीए हैं, जिनके पास कंपनी सेक्रेटरी हैं, ये सब बैठ करके बैंक को कैसे चूना लगाना है ये जानते हैं वो लोग. उनके ऊपर आप कार्रवाई करने की बजाय
The argument that the farmer will empty his account because he doesn't want you to collect. Here we have banks who are auctioning off farmland. They're taking away the land. They're taking away whatever little assets that farmer has. Where will he go? He's not going to fly off to Antigua and buy a citizenship. He's not going to go to the US or or Brussels. Pejor Mishra, go ahead, please.
Faye, I want to say, in the pretext of ease to do business, you bring in bankruptcy and solvency law, but to protect the big,
We also bring in financial
lenders.
fugitive
Now, what
law.
I want to tell you is that
Economic fugitive law.
why can't they bring in, like they brought in, like Modi government brought in crop insurance and many kind of a cover for the farmers. Now, why can't they see that those are well implemented? They are not implemented, and that is where the accountability, I am all the time saying, that is where the accountability comes in of the bank manager. The bank manager has to understand, and the bank manager has to go door to door to understand the defaulters' issues and their problems and their challenges and solve them,
Yes.
one by one, so that they feel comfortable and they don't get
Totally
pushed
agree
to
to
commit suicide, or they don't get pushed to get into an area where they get more poor and poorer and get into a poverty trap. That is what I'm
There
trying to
has to
tell
be
you all,
more-
that this is
But
not
it has to
happening.
be a
We are only
step-by-step
lecturing,
process. It
we are
cannot
only
be-
preaching,
it cannot
we are
be a
not
magic
making
wand.
the bank
The
manager
system is
accountable.
I would have liked to have been the bank manager who
but
had
it
to go
cannot
to
be
Vijay
also
Mallya's
that
house
you
and counsel him
indefinitely
on
keep
how
on-
to pay
you
his bills
indefinitely
without
keep on
getting
delaying
distressed.
it.
One
You
second,
cannot
Dharmesh
keep
on the phone line from
indefinitely
Mumbai.
delaying it. You
Dharmesh.
have to do it. You have to do it strictly on time, within the stipulated time. You have to protect the consumers. You have to protect the farmers. You have to protect the citizens. It is your duty as the government in power. You have to do that. You can't shy away from your responsibility.
Dharmesh on the phone line from Mumbai. Dharmesh, very quickly, go ahead, please.
Yes, it is 100% truth that the government is taking absolutely no action against these super rich, willful bank defaulters. It is the common people who have to pay in terms of taxes to recover these huge loans, NPAs. I challenge the government, show us the action taken against the willful defaulters like Samir Kothari, Doot, etc., and prove themselves that they are genuine and they are really willing to take actions. Otherwise, the government has very limited time. People are highly angry, and they are going to pay heavily in the next general election. They are going to lose
All right.
very heavily.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anand from Patna. Anand, go ahead.
Hello, I'm also a manager in SBI.
Yes.
It's a system which is at fault, and we have few fast checks. Like even banks are writing off some loans for farmers as well.
Yes.
It is not that we don't write off loans for farmers.
Okay.
Just that the quantum of loans written off for the corporates are huge in magnitude, and that is a system's failure. That is where somewhere connivance of the top
Exactly.
officials, connivance of the government officials are there, and RBI along with the government must look into this thing. It is a
Absolutely.
suitability.
He's come out
It
with
is
the
a
truth.
suitability where
He's
you
come out with the
enhance
truth.
Customers. That is the thing. We have to
Anand, as a bank manager yourself, when you talk about these large loans that are waived off or restructured for large corporates, how much of it comes through corruption?
Yeah, at least 60 to 70% cases are attributed to corruption, because bank officials, maybe for their promotion, maybe for their some underhand deals, they go for enhancement in corporate accounts. Like in many accounts, in case of Malia also, if you see, in case of Bhushan Steel, in case of various other accounts, if you have a forensic audit, then you will come to realize and get to know that many of these accounts were restructured or given enhancement because of some connivance of the top officials from the government or from the top management of the various banks.
Very well said, Anand. Vaibhav Agarwal, do you want to respond to that now?
Yes, I think while there is no running away from accepting the fact that there is connivance for sure, that is why, but there are political connivance that actually gets political patronage for all these kind of corrupt activities, and that's what the Modi government is reeling with and dealing with. And that's why we are seeing some success in terms of Vijay Mallya coming down on his knees and begging for whatever he's trying to beg with. That's why the Antigua country, which has no extradition
Vijay Mallya got married and went on honeymoon.
Send the guy back, send the willful defaulter back. That's why on the other side,
and Mehul Choksi is probably chilling on the beach
talking about
awareness campaigns for the farmer.
Okay, so Vaibhav Agarwal, I think
without even having to verify it.
No, I don't understand when you say that Vijay Mallya is on his knees. I don't believe he is. We haven't seen it. But Harsh Rungta has something to say. Harsh Rungta, go ahead, please.
He was probably on his knees proposing to his would-be wife.
I think
Harsh Rungta, please go ahead.
I think this issue is too important to be politicized.
Yes, I agree with you.
Just now a caller vented out saying that it would have an impact in 2019. It would make no difference which party is in power. Okay, I think this is something that we have lived with for the last 65 years. If we had hoped for a change, that change clearly hasn't come. And I don't think in the current system it can come. What can the government do? I think first of all it has to pull up the regulator, and if the regulator refuses to take action, the parliament has to step in by putting laws into place and making sure that people who do not follow the law are penalized. And I think there is a problem. That's not with banking alone. That's a problem generally with a lot of other sectors. And I think till we implement the laws, no matter which party is in power, we're still going to have a problem.
Well,
so I don't feel
Harsh Rungta has always been a very gentle person when he makes his point. But Harsh Rungta, the banking sector affects every one of our lives. So you're saying it happens in a lot of sectors, but when it happens in the banking sector, it really, really hurts and it really becomes unfair. And that's my problem here. When it happens in the FMCG sector, I don't really care. When it happens in any other sector, the telecom sector, I don't care. But when it happens in the banking sector, none of us can escape the banking sector. We all need to have bank accounts. Which is why that final point that Harsh Rungta pointed out, Mr. Urjit Patel, how is this even happening? On one hand, you have banks that are raining so much terror down on farmers who owe them 2 lakh rupees that the farmers are committing suicide. That is the same very bank that allowed Nirav Modi to walk away with nearly 13,000 crore rupees. The same bank. Why are the rules different? Why the manner in which the rules being enforced different? Why is it that when it comes to the middle class or when it comes to poor farmers, the banks treat that customer like a thief? And when it comes to the rich, and the famous and the powerful, they are allowed to walk away. Let's also not forget about the fact that this sort of walking away is what has resulted in the NPAs that we're looking at today, not the farmers. The NPA problem in our banking sector has been caused by the rich and the powerful and not the poor farmers. And yet somehow, when we decide we need to make up for those NPAs, we're actually taxing the middle class by saying if you don't maintain a minimum balance in your account, we're going to deduct money out of your account as a fine, and then we're going to charge you GST on that fine. It's ridiculous. We're fining people for not having enough money. We're allowing the characters like Vijay Mallya to walk away. How can we possibly do this in any conscience? Who runs out of money in their bank accounts at the end of every month? College students who are getting an allowance from their parents. People with jobs like watchmen, people with jobs where they run to the bottom of their bank account at the end of every month waiting for the next salary, trying to make ends meet. These are the people we are fining. It doesn't make sense. It's not right. And it's all happening because the RBI is not cracking the whip on these banks. And even when it does, it's a benign little notice with a benign little fine, and that's not good enough. The RBI has all but abdicated its position as a regulator of banks in the last 1 year. Everything from demonetization onwards has been abysmal. All the RBI has done really is keep an eye on inflation and increasing interest rates, but that's only half your job. The other half is to protect the customer and to regulate the banking sector. Please, we should not be the ones to have to remind you of that. Thanks for watching.